Hello guys! You know what's cool in shooters? Scopes. Like when you have rifle, you definitely wanna have scope on it. Who even use like rifles without a scope? But from the developer's perspective, this is kinda tricky question. How to make a scope. So today I'm gonna show you how you can make a scope for your game in Unity. Let's begin! Okay, what I've already got here. I have pretty simple first-person shooter setup. Basically what I can do, I can look around and look into scope. Our character has this ACOG style scope on its rifle, so we'll try to make this scope X4 or X3 scope. Creating this tutorial, I've used a bunch of assets from the asset store. I found all of them are free and I'll link them in the description. For example, there is this cool, completely free low poly weapon pack. Back to the scope. We'll use one trick to implement the scope in our game. If you don't know, camera in Unity can render not only to the screen, but also to the texture. Let's add camera to our scope. I'll place it so that it looks through the scope, and also I'll set camera angle to a very small angle. That actually gives us needed magnification effect. Next step, you want to create render texture in your project. This is a special type of textures which allows dynamically render to them from camera. There is special field in camera, so create this texture and drag and drop it to the field. Now you want this texture to be rendered on something, so I'll just create a standard Unity cylinder and align it so that it fits with the scope. And now let's create a new material and drag and drop our render texture to its main texture field. And let's assign the material to the cylinder. Here I faced the problem that actually our scope camera is trying to render our cylinder and actually like nothing is rendered. To solve this issue, I've just moved near plane of the camera so that the cylinder won't be rendered. Okay, that actually looks like a scope now. I've played a little bit with camera position and field of view to create higher magnification, because as for me this was a little bit too small. This scope is actually technically working, but let's add some tweaks here and there so the scope looks like really beautiful and more realistic. I want to add two features here. First, I want the image in the scope to move depending on the angle at which we look at it. To do so, we need to make this through shader actually. So let's create the new unlit shader. Standard unlit shader will work pretty good, but we wanna add a few tweaks here. There is this function which gives you a screen coordinate of the point. So we'll just take these coordinates and shift our texture accordingly. If you want to inspect this shader closely, I'll link it in the description. So we have this shift here and our scope looks much better now. Next thing, I want to add a crosshair here. We need to aim somehow from the scope. I'll just add another texture field to the shader. Also, I've created this crosshair texture with the little chevron in the center. It is also available in the description. So let's drag and drop this texture to the appropriate field and check it out. Yeah, now it looks like a real scope. We have one more thing to do. You know how lenses have this bluish glare on them? So let's add this glare to create a real glass effect. A little bit more coding and I've added yet another texture to the shader. I'm using GIMP as my image editor, and there is this function called vignette in GIMP. I've just used this filter to create semi-transparent bluish vignette over a transparent square. I've imported this texture to the Unity and added it to the material. Now this scope looks like it has a real glass on it. Maybe it's not very realistic, but because I'm using low poly models here, I am not looking for a super realistic glass or something like this. Actually, the scope requires some final adjustments. I just moved camera here and there a little bit. Also, I've adjusted the cylinder, which is acting like a lens here. And in the end, I have a super cool result. The scope looks really great. I absolutely love it, how it acts and how it looks, and actually how it feels inside the game. If you want to make scope like this, I'll link all the assets I've used in the description. Press like button if you like this tutorial. Let me know what you think about this tutorial in the comments. Subscribe to my channel, more tutorials are coming soon. See you, bye!